Get into it with former CKE restaurant CEO Andy Puzder. He's the author of the hit book. It's called The Capitalist Comeback. Great to see you, Andy.
Great to be here, Liz. Thank you.
Andy, I don't know if you saw this. The head of the Democrats Socialists wrote an op-ed for USA Today right before the midterm saying, quote, capitalism only works for the rich. And they say this person argued that, that the workers have a right to share in the wealth that labor creates, that the Democrats, socialists, that's their platform. Your take?
Look, people need to remember that socialism has had terrible, terrible results. Every place it's been tried, historically, currently, historically the USSR, the world's largest socialist economy ever, collapsed under its own weight. Venezuela, North Korea, Cuba, all disasters for working people, for ordinary people. The capitalist policies, the policies President Bush put in place, reduced taxes, reduced regulation, focus on domestic energy. We've got the lowest unemployment rates, close to or the lowest unemployment rates ever for Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, women, people with only a high school education. Wages are up 3.1%. That's the highest in 10 years. Benefits are up almost 3%. Take-home pay is up over 5%. We've got people falling off the welfare rolls with respect to SNAP benefits or food stamps.
Yeah.
We've got the lowest number of people getting unemployment benefits since 1973, when there were 110 million fewer people in the population. So arguing that these capitalist policies don't work but socialist policies do, you have to ignore reality, current events, and history.
Single payer, this idea about socialized medicine, I mean, Harry Truman has talked about that in the 40s. Dwight Eisenhower was against socialized medicine. Ronald Reagan, I think he was working in marketing for General Electric, was saying this is really bad, this talk of socialized medicine. It came into Medicare in the 60s. What's your take on the rising chorus for Medicare for All? It's really should be named what it is, single payer. 123 plus House Democrats want it.
Well, if you want to have the kind of misery and deprivation that they have in Venezuela right now, these are the kinds of policies we should adopt. Look, our current system for health care and for medical insurance in this country needs to be reformed. There are great examples in the world for doing that. I think Singapore is a really good example. They have a system that uses competition to lower prices and lower costs. There's a lot of things that we could look to Singapore. And they have, by the way, the lowest percentage of GDP spent on health care and some of the best health care results in the world. So we shouldn't be looking to countries with failed healthcare systems. We should be looking to countries that have successful healthcare systems. And look, Medicare for all, Medicaid for all, it just wouldn't, you can't pay $32.6 trillion over 10 years for something. That's doubling federal spending, and we can't even come up with the cash to cover the spending we're doing now.
That's an important point. And Andy, here's the thing. I mean, the critics are saying, why rip apart the whole system and have complete government takeover of everybody's health care, where the government pays for everything? We already see that employer-provided coverage has plummeted to just 57% of overall plans. That's according to Kaiser. Communist China does not have what the Democrats want, the government fully paying for all health care. I mean, even the Chinese pay out of pocket.
Well, it's the same in Denmark. Look, they really don't have any idea what they're talking about. You've got people like, Representative now, Ocasio-Cortez. This is a woman who came on TV and said that she believed that the unemployment rate was low because people had multiple jobs. Well, that's wrong for two reasons. One, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports how many people have multiple jobs, and it's a very low percentage. And number two, the unemployment rate doesn't measure the number of jobs. It measures the number of people with jobs. So even if you have 4 jobs, you're still just one person employed.
Yeah, I mean,
she just doesn't know what they just don't. I know Bernie Sanders doesn't grasp economics at really any realistic level, and it's a problem.
More part-timers under the Trump economy moving into full-time jobs.
Yes.
Andy, what's your take? Again, the polls were wrong, that the Republican voter simply is not being picked up in the polls. And you got to wonder how this is affecting the media debate going from New York to D.C., that media beltway echo chamber about policies. Republican voters talk about policies. The media was full on hating Trump. The Republican voter not picked up in the polls. Lo and behold, surprise, surprise. People are surprised that Andrew Gillum lost. They're surprised that you know, Beto O'Rourke lost, that Joe Donnelly lost. There's surprises here. What do you think of all this?
I think with all the negative media coverage, not only of President Trump, but of Republicans and their policies in general, when you've got somebody calling, I don't know, let's say Hispanic family in Florida, and the Hispanic husband or wife answers the phone, the odds that they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm supporting the Republican. With all the negative coverage that you get, people generally don't respond favorably to questions about whether they support Republicans or President Trump. It's called social responsibility bias. It's what messed up the polls for Hillary Clinton. It's what's messed up the polls with this midterm election.
Yeah.
People aren't responding accurately. So you don't look at the polling. Just listen to what the candidates say. Look at what's being done.
And the Republicans,
we haven't had an economy like this. God, and I think once in my life, maybe during the Reagan administration.
I hear you, but the Republicans did have an incoherent message on health care and health reform. And maybe they'll take up your idea about Singapore. Who knows? Andy, great to see you, sir. Get his book. Andy's a great writer. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Coming up, just like we have been saying right before the midterms, it will be about